Hello everybody, welcome back. This is Lance Hightower, one of the Cryptid brothers, coming to you from outside of Tulsa, Oklahoma, at a very peaceful park that I go to. I like to shoot a lot of intro. We have, the next episode is with Al. Al is a great guy. He's been very patient. Also, I know I've been promising for a couple of months here, but the website is coming within this week. That's going to be a really cool feature. We have some really cool things in the e-commerce store, as well as we've shot some additional footage and different types of interviews we've had that's going to be available just to our members. So thank you for being patient. We've just hit the 13,000 subscriber mark and we're very excited, and we want to say a big thank you to you, for without you, of course, as I've said many times, we would not have a show. Also, thank you from Rob Spencer, our sculptor out of Tennessee. He's very appreciative. He's excited to get going. He has just a couple weeks and then he's going to start sending out those sculptures that many of you have ordered and are continuing to order every day. So thank you so much from him as well. So let's get on with this episode with Al late last year.
My name is Al Sanariga. I'm the founder of the Bronxville Paranormal Society. I live in New York State. I'm also the co-director of the New York State chapter of the Dogman Project. And we go out and, we investigate all kinds of investigations, everything from UFOs, cryptids, to ghosts, to whatever. On October 14th, I invited a bunch of friends of mine out from other paranormal teams who strictly do ghost hunting, and invited them out on a cryptid investigation because they all wanted to go. After it was all said and done, I invited 7 people to come. When it was all said and done, only 2 women from one of the other teams decided to come. I'm not going to mention the team they're on because I didn't get their founders' permission to use their name on the radio, so I won't do anything without anybody's permission. But anyway, I'm going to change their names. Wendy and Mary decided to come with me, and I took them to one of our hot spots. It's a place called Nuclear Lake. It's a place of high strangeness. Back in the 70s, United Nuclear Corps mined uranium there. It's a federal land off the Appalachian Trail here in New York State. And while refining the plutonium or uranium, whatever they were mining, I don't really remember, there was an accident at the lake, an explosion, and the lake got contaminated, and they had to close the facility. And then they sealed the mine, and the government came in and spent millions of dollars to clean up the facility. But ever since then, the place, and I'm sure probably even before then, the place has been a place of high strangeness. And one outing was taking a couple of friends of mine out that were over from England, and we came across a burnt out section of the woods, and I looked up into the woods, and I noticed it looked like there was a cairn up on top of a high plateau. So I went up there to check this cairn out, and it turned out to be a megalithic site, and there's like these giant stones set up in a circle, a huge circle with hundreds of other stones set up around them. There's tree breaks, there's archways, there's X's, there's twists, there's all kinds of Sasquatch sign there. And I called my psychic, who's from Arkansas, and I asked her to read the place, and she said that she thought that it was a ceremonial site. She felt it was built by the white men, but she doesn't know what time period. But she also felt that it was used by the Native American and the Sasquatches as a sacred site. And she calls the Sasquatches the guardians of the woods. And she always tells us whenever we go there that they're going to be following us and they're going to watch us. And so this one particular night, October 14th, I wanted to do it on Friday the 13th, but everybody was working, so I couldn't do it on the 13th. So we decided to go in on the 14th. And we hiked in. It's about a 3-mile hike in off of the main road. And we set up camp at the high plateau, the sacred site. And one of the women that was with me, Wendy, she's a sensitive, and she kind of wandered off and was feeling the area out. And while I was sitting at the campsite with Mary, I had called my psychic to have her read the site while we were there, because she had felt that there wasn't going to be any dark energy there or anything along the lines, anything harmful. But she also felt that the Native Americans spirits would be there watching us, and that also the Sasquatches, the guardians she calls, would be there watching us. And she said, please respect the site. It's a sacred site. So Mary and I heard everything that my psychic Cindy had to say. After that, Wendy had come back to the base camp, and she had told me, beyond the stone structures, just beyond there, she had seen a Native American woman about 45 years old with gray and black hair in animal hide. And she said that she felt that this woman was a lost soul, and that this woman asked her if she knew where her tribe was. And, of course, Wendy said, no, I don't know. But the woman said that she would stay there because that was a sacred site, and she just was wondering if her tribe would come back to that site where she could reunite with them, which kind of blew Mary's mind, because, she didn't hear Cindy on the phone tell us that, it was a sacred site, Native American site as well. So She had no idea what Cindy was telling us. So it kind of validated what my psychic Cindy was telling us. So anyway, like I said, these two women are ghost hunters, so they're not used to being in the woods during the day. They're not used to being in the woods at night. And we settled down. We had headlamps, but I made sure everybody kept them off, because what I did was I put a perimeter around us of glow sticks just to give us some ambient light, and I also threw some glow sticks down in front of us so that we could have a conversation and see one another. I had a digital voice recorder rolling the whole time we were there on one of the megalithic sites. I had the IR camera set up and the thermal imager set up. I broke out the parabolic mic and the night vision goggles. And the girls were experimenting with the goggles and the parabolic mic, because this is equipment that they don't normally use. And they were blown away by, with how great the parabolic mic worked, and, how amazing the night vision goggles were.
The night vision nowadays are incredible that we have access to as a public. It's just the sky's the limit there.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, mine are old. Mine are old, but they have two settings on it. They have the green screen, and they also have like an inverted screen. They call it like an X-ray vision kind of look to it, like a black and white.
Oh.
So they're very cool, but they're nothing new, but they work pretty good. And if you have like a UV flashlight or an IR flashlight with you as well, you can get a little extra distance from them. Mm-hmm. If they're only good for about 50 feet or so, but they're good enough for when you're in the woods. And so anyway, we're sitting there and it's getting dark. And I can feel their anxiety starting to rise. They're freaking out. And they're like, how do you sit here in the dark, at night in these woods with all these sounds and this, that, and the other thing? And I was like, you know what? It's just, I said, listen, I said, these Sasquatches that are here know us. They're very patient with us. We've never had a violent encounter. Even the time that we were bluff charged, I don't consider it to be a violent encounter, because it wasn't like they were ripping trees out of the ground and throwing them at us or screaming at the top of their lungs, maybe a whoop here or a rock knock, something like that. Rock comes flying in once in a while, but nothing that I would consider to be dangerous. So we're sitting there, and it's getting dark now. It's like 8 o'clock at night, and it's pretty dark. The tree canopy is still pretty thick up here, and so we're under the tree canopy, and it's dark. And I got the IR camera going, and I got the infrared camera going, the thermal imager, and we started. I break out a Tibetan singing bowl that I like to use. It's actually an app, and it has all the different chakras, and I go through all the chakras to put out as much vibration and frequency into the woods, because it tends to bring them in to see what's going on. So we did that, and then we pulled on the parabolic mic, and sure enough, you could start hearing walking all around us from a distance. And there's a high ridge line to our west that I believe they come off of when they come down to the site. And you could hear them walking around us, and we were definitely surrounded at one point, because you could hear, and they're walking hard enough that you don't need the parabolic mic to hear them. You can hear them with your own 2 ears, stepping on leaves and twigs and breaking them. And these are the adults we're talking about. So the girls are getting nervous, and I'm like, relax, just relax. We're at a sacred site. Nothing, I promise you, nothing's going to happen. Been here 100 times. We've never had any incidences. And as last time we were there, we actually had one, what we call a scout, come in and check us out. And we were watching him on the night vision goggles. He started out about 50 feet away. Then he worked his way into a 25 feet. And at one point, I think the closest point, he was about 15 feet away from us. Unfortunately, my night vision goggles don't record, so I didn't get any images of him. But so we're sitting there, and you hear him walking around us. And then you heard, I did a tree knock, and I felt it wasn't, that night I didn't do any whoops or screams or anything. I just didn't feel like, the vibe I was getting was like, don't do that tonight. Just stick with like something simple as a tree knock. Mm-hmm. So I did a tree knock, and then we got a tree knock from the west. So then I broke out a couple of flutes. So I bought a couple of plastic flutes and maracas from the dollar store, and we played the flutes and we played the maracas, and just to see, you know, what they would do with the, as far as the music goes. Because the last time we were there, I brought a little drum and a wooden flute, and we did like a Native American kind of ceremony thing, which kind of drew them in as well. After we did that, the girls and I, we played the flutes, and I took all the instruments and I set them up on some of the megalithic stones that were around us, and I, you know, told them, I said, look, this is a gift from me to you, for you guys to have and, you know, play with or whatever. And we're sitting there, and then a rock came flying in. A rock came in from one side, and then a rock came in from the other side, and the girls like, you know, what's going on? I said, they're just, you know, throwing little rocks at us. And they're like, maybe those are acorns falling from the trees. And I said, well, yeah, it could be an acorn falling from the tree, but I'm getting the feeling that they're just throwing little rocks at us. And then, because they weren't coming like directly at us, they were throwing them up over the trees, and then they were coming down over the trees, because you could see the leaves coming down off the trees as the rocks were going through. And then we got a rock knock to our south, which was really, really close to us. And then we got a tree knock to our east. And then something happened that never happened before. We got a tree break come from the north of us. And this tree must have been so big, because when this creature broke this tree, it sounded like a 30-06 going off right next to your ear.
Wow.
It was bang. I mean, it was loud, which sent the girls' anxieties through the roof. I felt their anxiety go through the roof, and they were like, maybe it's time to go, you know? Mm-hmm. And I was like, right. I was more concerned. I was concerned that their anxiety was going to make the creatures nervous. You know, I didn't want to make the Sasquatches nervous. Because usually when I'm there with my guys, we just stay calm, cool, and collected, and they stay calm, cool, and collected. But I was worried about their anxiety, making them nervous. And at one point, you know, I said, okay, we could start packing up. I know you guys are really nervous, and, you know, maybe we should, you know, I don't want to make the creatures nervous. We could move out of this site. And while we were packing up, hand to God, we got strafed by handfuls of rocks, small rocks from every direction. It seemed like they were throwing 2 handfuls at a time. They were coming down around over the trees. They were coming down through the trees, but they were landing like 10 feet away from us, like in a complete circle. No one got hit by any stones or anything, but I never had that many rocks thrown at us at once. Now, I've never been in these woods before with any women either. It's usually a group of guys, you know. And when I go in, we all go in armed with survival knives and 18-inch machetes and pepper spray. I don't allow anyone to bring any firearms because I just don't trust anybody to get nervous. I don't want anybody shooting anybody else. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
So I don't trust anybody with firearms. It's because, you know, accidents happen. People get scared, and I don't want that on my conscience.
Sure.
So we're packing up, and the rocks are coming in from both sides. And I had set up a couple of reflectors that led back down to the main Appalachian Trail because we were definitely off the beaten path, and I didn't want the girls to get nervous or scared about how we were going to get out of there at that point. Because once we put the headlamps on and we started to make our way out, those reflectors lit up like, you know, like beacons in the night, and we were able to get right to the trail without a problem. And we got down to the Appalachian Trail, and we hiked out about a mile. We came to a meadow, and we sat down in the meadow, and we took a break because, you know, it was a mile hike, and we had full backpacks, and the girls aren't used to hiking. They're used to going into, you know, haunted houses and stuff like that, or cemeteries. Mm-hmm. So we took a break, and we were just sitting amongst ourselves discussing some of the investigations that they had invited me to a couple of weeks prior. And we were at that location for a solid half hour, 45 minutes. And, you know, we heard a whistle here, and we heard a whistle there, and we heard a hoot that, you know, Mary insisted was a barred owl, but she said she had barred owls behind her house, and she knew what a barred owl sounded like. And I said, well, you know, could be a barred owl, could be a Sasquatch. They tend to, you know, pretend to be other animals, especially when they're hunting. You know, they'll sound like coyotes, or they'll whistle, or they'll hoot, you know. And so after a little while there, the girls' anxiety level dropped, and they were okay. We were hiking out, and now we're on the old mining road, which is pretty wide. You could probably drive 2 cars side by side up it. So we're all walking down together, the 3 of us, and we hiked out about another mile, and we got to the mouth of the lake. And when I got to the lake, I should have mentioned this in the beginning, when I got to the lake, I took out a Geiger counter just to see if there was any radiation level there, because, you know, there was a nuclear accident there. And the radiation level was really, really low. But when I got up to the sacred site, and I took the test again, I took the Geiger counter out again, and the radiation was very high. I mean, not high, like dangerously high, but high, very high compared to down by the mouth of the lake, which didn't make any sense because it should have been higher where the accident happened than up on top of the high plateau. And I was talking to my psychic about it, and she felt that, you know, there was probably some kind of portal or vortex, you know, some kind of energy happening up at that location that night, and that's why it was probably higher there than it was down below. But anyway, we get to the mouth of the lake, and it's, you know, from there to the main road is like another mile. So I asked the girls if they wanted to take a break there. You know, we had just hiked a mile, and they were a little nervous because there was whistling was following us out, one to my right and one to Wendy's left, and we had this so-called barn owl seemed to be following us down the center of the trail. And they were like, no, let's just keep walking. At the very beginning of the mining road is a ranger station. And you can never get past these people at night because you're not supposed to be at the lake at night, but you can be on the Appalachian Trail 24 hours a day, 365 days a week. So they usually have essential lights and dogs, and you can never get past them. That's why we try to get in during the day, and then when we leave at night, if they come out, we're leaving anyway. You know, we're not trying to get in, sneak by them. But anyway, we get to the mouth of the lake, and I said, "You girls want to take a break?" And they were like, "No, let's keep going." So as we're walking, you know, Wendy, being the sensitive, says to me, "You know, Al, we're being followed." And I said, yeah, I got that feeling as well. She goes, you know, that whistle you hear on the right of you and that whistle you hear on the left of me, those are Sasquatches, and they're following us out. And I say, yeah, and that barred owl that keeps following us down the center of the mining road, I'm pretty sure is a Sasquatch as well. Well, at this point, Mary kept saying, it's not a Sasquatch, it's an owl. I have them behind my house. So at one point, we're about a half a mile away from the ranger station. The barred owl went from being, 500 yards away from us to being 500 feet away from us in a matter of a second. And, one minute you hear this hoot that's way off in the distance, and the next minute you hear this hoot that's like right behind you. So we all kind of turned around and we were debating on and I told the girls, I said, listen, they're just hurting us out. They want us out of this location, and so we're just going to, do what they want, and we're going to leave, but we're going to leave at our own pace. We're not going to run because we're not going to be scared out of here. We're just leaving. And then, we hear this hoot again. This time it sounds like it's right behind us, and it's so loud and it's so powerful that you could feel it vibrate through you. So again, we all turn around to see what's coming. We all have pretty high-powered headlamps on. I'm going to say maybe 300 lumas. So we could see a good distance, 150 feet easy. And we're all looking up the mining road, and we don't see anything on the road, but it sounds like something is like right behind us. So at one point, we're all debating what's going on, and then we get, which totally blew my mind, it sounded to me like the two Sasquatches that were in the wood lines to our right and left jumped onto the mining road and met up with the one that was following us out from behind. And at that point, they all started doing monkey barking. And I mean, it was loud. I mean, you can feel it vibrate through your body. They're jumping up and down. You can feel the weight hit the ground. They're slapping the ground. And the image I got in my head was like Planet of the Apes. That's what I was. And the girls freak out, and they take off running. And they're running, and I'm telling them, don't run. Don't run. And I'm trying to convince them to stop running because I stood my ground. And I said, don't run. At the same time, I pulled out my survival knife, and I turned, and I looked up the trail. And to me, the vibe I got was that I was dealing with 3 juveniles. And they were either excited because they got the scent of the women, or they were just messing with us, and they were trying to scare us the hell out of there. But they were getting to a fever pitch, and now you could feel their energy going higher and higher. And I thought if I didn't do something right then, right there, if I didn't nip this in the bud, that they may come charging down the trail after us, That's because it was like they were so loud, the woods was just echoing with this monkey barking that I had never experienced before. And so I had the knife in my hand, and I'm walking towards them. I'm walking towards the bark, and I'm screaming and yelling and profanity, knock it off. That's enough. We're leaving. There's no reason to do this. You're not going to drive us out of here. We're going to leave at our own accord. And I'm just screaming like a lunatic because I'm trying to calm those creatures down that are doing this monkey bark. And at the meantime, the girls stopped running, and they turned to me, and they had their knives drawn as well. And they were like, Al, don't walk towards them, come to us, don't come to us, And I was like, no, I'm not really walking towards them. I'm just trying, maybe I walk maybe 5-10 feet at the most, because I'm just trying to get them in my headlamp so I can get eyes on them,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And at the time, I had a flare gun on me, and the thought crossed my mind I could do 2 things. I could shoot a flare up over their head to get a better look at them, or I could shoot a flare down on the ground and maybe the flare, the flame of the flare will freak them out enough where they'll back off or they'll run away. But I really didn't want to burn the woods down, and I really didn't want to piss them off. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I decided against it, and that's why I walked up like 10 feet screaming and yelling. It was funny because once I started screaming and yelling at them, and to me it felt like a bunch of children running around in a house out of control, and the parent yelling at them to stop, and they all just stop dead, and they just look at the parent. Well, that's what happened. Once I started yelling at them and screaming at them, all the monkey barking stopped, and the woods went dead silent. And I don't know if these creatures jumped back into the wood line as I was walking towards them, or if they were just backing off to stay out of my headlamp, because I never laid eyes on them. But I'll tell you, right after I yelled at them and screamed at them, I turned back around and I walked back to the girls and I said, okay, Wendy, Mary, we're going to walk out of here at our own pace, nice and calm and relaxed. I said, because, right now they're hurting us out. When you start to run, you're going to snap their minds into hurting us, into hunting us. And I said, even if these are juveniles between 4 and 6 feet tall, they're still probably 300 pounds. They could probably rip our arms off and kill us. So let's just do this nice and calm and relaxed and walk out at our own pace. And that's what we did. We turned around and we just walked out at our own pace. And at one point, Mary said, where the hell is this ranger station? Because it seemed like we were walking a while. We couldn't get there. But after I yelled at them and all the monkey barking stopped, I got the feeling that they were no longer following us. Like they stopped right there at that spot and never came any further. And when we got to the ranger station and this, the sensor lights went on and the dog started barking and all that stuff, I turned to Wendy, who was sensitive, and I said, let me ask you a question. I said, after I yelled at them, what did you feel? And she said, Al, after you yelled at them, she said, I didn't get the feeling that they were following us out anymore. I don't believe they left as much, because I think they turned and went back to the sacred site where the adults were. And I said, that's the way I felt as well. And then we walked back to our car and we loaded all our gear and everything. And we went to where they had their car parked, and we stood there for a little while and we talked about the night. And the girls were like, it was terrifying and exciting all at the same time.
Oh,
and
yes.
they said, we'll never go into the woods ever again. Never mind. She goes, I won't even go into the woods during the day. Never mind at night. But they said it was something that was on their bucket list and they wanted to do it, and they were glad that they did it. And as a matter of fact, I got a message from Mary today, and she said, I was scared. I was scared out of my mind, she says, but now that I know what to expect, I want to go back and I want to do it again. So she's looking forward to going back out. But it was something that I've never experienced in all the years, and I've been doing this now for about 7 years, and I've never, ever experienced juveniles before. I've never experienced tree breaks. I've never experienced the monkey barking. And I told the girls, they're like, what the hell are they doing? And I said, it's called monkey barking. I said, if you go to YouTube and you pull it up, you'll hear vocalizations of these creatures doing this. It sounds like chimpanzees, barking in the woods. But, we're in the Northeast. There are no chimpanzees in New York State, And
right.
It was pretty amazing night. As a matter of fact, I got home so early. It was only 10 o'clock when I walked through the door. My wife's like, what the hell are you doing home so early? You usually don't get home till 1 or 2.
Right.
And I said, the ghost hunters got a little scared, so we left, But it was an amazing night. I tell you what, it was, and like I said, I believe the only reason we experienced what we experienced is because I was in the woods with 2 women and not 4 or 5 guys, And I felt that I had to act like the alpha when I was with those 2 women, because I didn't want them to challenge me, you know.
Sure.
I'm the only guy with these two women, and I got these three juveniles getting all ramped up, and you could feel their energy getting more and more excited, going through the roof. Even though my psychic said she didn't see anything dangerous happening to us, she did say that she's seen a shadow figure that would present itself to us on the trail. Now, I don't know if that shadow figure was actually the Sasquatches that she was seeing in her mind's eye, but I never expected that to happen. And I still haven't had a chance, because I'm actually battling some health issues right now. I haven't had a chance to go through the parabolic mic, because I had the parabolic mic recording the whole time we were at the sacred spot, and the digital voice recorder going. And I know I had that mic recording when we got the tree knocks, the rock knocks, and the tree break. So I'm hoping to be able to transfer it from the parabolic mic onto the digital voice recorder so that I could actually put it on my Facebook page or our website and stuff. But the issues I'm going through right now, I haven't had a chance to play around with any of the evidence from that night. I haven't even had a chance to look through any of the IR footage or the thermal imager footage as well. But I'm hoping that we caught everything, you know, because like I said, as soon as I got there, I turned the digital voice recorder on. But I didn't turn it on when we were leaving, because we had never experienced anything on the way out before. And the thought crossed my mind, should I put the digital voice recorder on and just put it in my pocket and let it run, or should I throw it in the bag with the rest of the equipment? And I said, you know what, nothing ever happens on the way out, and I threw it in the bag, so I didn't have a recording. So I didn't get any of that monkey barking, which was absolutely amazing.
Oh, yeah, that would have been incredible.
You know, you live and learn. Every time you go out, you live and learn. You learn something new, you know. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're very unpredictable. Just when you think something's not going to occur, it does. And that's why so many people, you know, I see people that comment on other shows, and, you know, how come you didn't, you say you heard this or you saw that, and how come you don't have a picture or digital recordings? And the fact of the matter is, A, they're unpredictable, and B, unless someone is running a camera, you know, all of the time, every time you drive or every time that you're out, which is, it just doesn't happen. It's very difficult to get pictures, photographs, video footage, audio of these sounds and creatures. I mean, it's just, it's not necessarily impossible for people to do that. It's just very inconvenient to run that all the time. And so, unfortunately, we miss a lot of really cool sounds and happenings that went on.
Yeah, and I actually have two videographers on my team, and both of them happen to be working that night. I can't get either one of them to come and you know, film the whole entire night. I was hoping I could get one or the two to actually be there with their cameras, because they're professional videographers. They have amazing equipment. So, but they both had to work. So I was the only guy there. So I can't run the thermal imager and the IR camera and everything else all by myself. You know, the girls didn't know. They're not used to working that kind of equipment. So, you know, everything was on me, so I couldn't do everything at once.
Sure, and that's the thing. We run into the same thing. I mean, everybody has jobs outside of doing shows and interviews and going on investigations and doing research. Everything is kind of on the side. And so
absolutely.
And so you just, you know, you do your best. I totally understand that. We don't always, and that's why most of my brothers and I were hardly on a show altogether, because, you know, my time, I'm self-employed, so my time off is not their time off. And when I talk to folks, it's either midday when they're at work or the videographer works, and so we try to plan our get-togethers. But, you know, I totally understand from your part. It's you just do the best you can under the circumstances, and it can be a challenge. It really can.
Oh, you know, it's difficult, and I totally understand. You know, I try to make it as convenient for as many people as I can, but you can never. I can never get the whole team out on an investigation all at once. It's always bits and pieces, that's why I got 2 videographers. I figured if one couldn't make it, the other one could, but unfortunately that night neither one of them could have made it, because they'll run audio and video all night long, and that's really the way to go, to have someone who's a professional at it that has really top-notch equipment and just let it run all night long. So,
oh, absolutely.
But we do the best we can. Like I said, we're all amateurs at it. There's really no experts as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely.
And we do what we can. And it was an amazing night. It's just mind-boggling. I've never experienced that in all the years, and we've experienced a lot of stuff, over the years. But like I said, this one location, we're very lucky to have patient Sasquatches with us. They're not very aggressive, and they're not. I don't believe that these ones are particularly dangerous. I mean, any one of them could be pissed off at any given moment and rip you to shreds. I mean, but like I said, if they want, and that's what I was trying to explain to the girls. I was like, listen, we were at the sacred site. We were surrounded by the big ones up there. There's no doubt in my mind whoever broke that tree was a big boy. And the walking we heard around us was not juveniles. I said, if they wanted us, they could have had us there. We sat at the other location, the second location, at the meadow for a half hour, 45 minutes. They could have had us there if they didn't want to hurt us. If they wanted to hurt us, they could have hurt us at any time during the course of the night. I said, I think the juveniles just got a little out of control. Maybe they were the juveniles, maybe they were female juveniles, you know what I mean? And they were upset that there were other females in the woods. I don't know if they were male or female, but, I was just trying to figure this out, and of course, as soon as I tell my brother, who's a parapsychologist, and all the guys on my team, everything, the first thing they said, did you get it did you record it? Did you get it? Did you get any evidence? I'm like, no, the stuff was in my bag. It was all packed up. It was, we were hiking out 2 miles. So I didn't have anything rolling. And everybody gave me hell, but, it happened. Things happen, So.
Well, yeah, I mean, we talk about that sometimes too. Some of us had a camera rolling or a recorder going, it would have been my brother, Lane. He has a father-in-law that had he was parked on this dirt road and basically pulled off on a dirt road going to his house that's not a normal road he takes, and it was right with open wheat fields, but this particular road he was on kind of was below, like in a ravine, where it was a graded road. So over time, it had eroded down. But had he had a camera, of course, you wouldn't think of this. He's really not a researcher, a tracker, anything. He's just a busy, hardworking guy. And if he had had a camera going, this Bigfoot just stepped right out on the road, midday, on a July day, really hot, about 105 out here, and saw him and jumped up the other side of this embankment over a 5-strand barbed wire fence. And, you think of moments like that, had he had a camera, that would have been the film of the year, seeing something like that. But, and also, like with Wiley Dave, when he saw that dogman coming out from 1,000 yards and going into about 400 and standing up, sniffing the air, I thought, oh my gosh, that would have been, again, film of the year had it been recorded. And he had no camera because he thought, I don't need to take any pictures. I'm just going to pleasure hunt. Nothing really is going to happen interesting. And then that happens, and he has no camera, no nothing.
When these things step out and you see them with your own eyes, your mind can't comprehend what your eyes are seeing. And even if you have a camera in your hand, you're not thinking about taking that picture.
Exactly.
Because your mind is trying to process what it's seeing in front of it,
Exactly.
So,
exactly. You're right. Well, how many stories have you heard or encounters of people that are carrying firearms or a rifle, and they are talking about the details of what they saw? Their mind is racing, trying to comprehend and compare it. What am I looking at? Is this a bear? Nope. Cow? Nope. Dog? Nope. And they forget entirely that they have a firearm on their side or slung around their shoulder. They completely, it's not remotely in consideration of that. Wow. And so they run, or they drop what they have in their hand, or the event just kind of ends and it walks away, and then everything comes back to normal again. They go, oh, I have a firearm in my hand. Oh, what was I doing? And so it's just not a normal, natural thing typically. You can carry one, but this is where I tell people, if you carry one, you need to practice with it actually thousands of times where it becomes second nature when you need to use it. But for just the average person that doesn't shoot firearms that much and you go take one, it doesn't mean you'll use it or know how to use it, and your marksmanship will greatly go down under high stress. And you might
absolutely.
And you might hurt someone, just like you said. You might hurt someone, just like you said. And then you
add it under the cover of darkness too, and your marksmanship even goes down even further.
Oh, absolutely. So that can be a dangerous situation, and you don't want anybody hurt, of course. But so this area sounds very, very interesting that you were at. Have you been back since, Al?
No, we haven't been back since. Well, like I said, I've been there many times, and we've had many accounts there. As a matter of fact, what I was telling you about when I was there the last time, I was there with one of my guys, Danny, and it's funny because I had invited like 12 people to come. You know, because I always like to invite people who aren't on the team. This way, they can validate anything we find. You know what I mean? They have nothing to gain by telling the truth.
Correct.
You know, and I was going back, and I was being drawn to that high plateau with those stones there, that sacred site. And I was going back, and everybody canceled on me. And I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to go alone. I don't care. I'm going because even though I know better than to go alone, I was being drawn there, and I thought I was going to have like a life-changing experience that night. So I was going, and at the last minute, my buddy Danny called me, and he says, hey, can I come? And I said, sure, of course. And we went, and Danny had never been, again, a newbie, never been out on a Sasquatch investigation, and we were up at that high ridge line, and one of my guys calls me. He's like a remote viewer. He does remote viewing, and he calls me up, and he says, you know, I'm seeing like a blue flash and a white light. I don't know if that means anything, but, you know, be careful. And I'm like, okay, because nobody wanted me to go. My psychic didn't want me to go, and the guys on my team didn't want me to go alone because they were like, you know, maybe it's an omen that everybody canceled on you and you're the only one going. And I looked at it as, well, maybe this experience is just meant for me, and that's why everybody canceled, you know?
Oh,
that's the way I looked at it. So I went, and Danny came with me, and that night I had the recorder going, and we did the same thing. That was the night that Danny actually seen. He had the night vision goggles around his neck. He wouldn't let those things go to save his life, and he was the one who experienced the Sasquatch coming in at 3 different locations. By the time I could get the IR camera up and running, because I wanted to get a close-up of it, it would step behind a tree and I couldn't see anything, or it would squat down behind a rock and you couldn't really make anything out. But Danny had that experience, and 3 separate times that night he's seen the Sasquatches come in. And I don't really want to talk about what else happened because it's more paranormal than, you know, Sasquatch related.
Sure.
But when we were leaving at the end of the night, when we decided to call it a night, Danny and I were walking out, and he said to me, he says, do me a favor, show me that part of the Appalachian Trail where you had that the coyotes run across your feet. Because that one night we were out there, and I believe the Sasquatches were hunting the coyotes, because the coyotes were just like running in all different directions, yipping. I had a coyote the size of a German Shepherd run across my feet. So I took him off the mining road and into the Appalachian Trail where this had occurred. And the funny thing about it is the Sasquatches have pulled down the trees where the Appalachian Trail comes out to the lake. because right by that lake, there's like a campsite. Even though you're not supposed to camp there, people camp there, and people have had Sasquatches come up to their tents on more than one occasion and walk around. We found a couple of footprints there when the lake was low, like a heel print at the edge of the lake, and then the toes in the water we couldn't cast, and then another one on a different side of the area. So we've had a lot of experiences at this location, and long story short, we go in and show Danny the location. He's like, wow, this is really, off the beaten trail. You can't even see the trail markers because of the way the Sasquatches have pulled the trees down over the Appalachian Trail. You can't see it, especially you can't see it during the day, never mind at night. But we're in there, and as we're walking, as we're turning to walk out, I see Danny's knees buckle, and he goes flying back. Almost looks like somebody had shot him with a high-powered rifle from a long distance. So he goes, like, his knees buckle, he goes, and I bend over to catch him because I don't know what the hell's going on with the guy. And he catches himself and he's leaning against the tree, and I said, damn, what happened? He said, you remember that white flash and that blue light that Brian was talking about? And I go, yeah. He says, it just hit me. He goes, I got hit with a jolt of electricity that went through my left hand, through my body, and out my right hand. He says, and when it hit me, I seen a white light and then a blue flash. And he goes, and he was, he's got a pacemaker and everything, so I was a little worried about him. And he says, what the hell just happened? And I said, I think you just got hit with some infrasound. And I was like, because Brian, who was doing the remote viewing, he's seen that, but he wasn't really sure if, he was seeing anything legitimate or not. And for Danny to experience it, and I mean, he buckled and his head went back. I thought, he got hit with a high-powered rifle. Yeah, and I went to catch him, but he was able to catch him. And I was worried because I'm thinking, if he just got hit with infrasound, because I've heard about people getting hit with infrasound and then bleeding, urinating blood, and I know this guy's got a pacemaker. God forbid his pacemaker stops. We're 1.5 miles deep in the woods. I got to carry this guy out,
Well, and that's one thing that, you don't hear on many shows, but, that kind of brings up, we could even do a segment just on that, is just with my brother Bill and I, but it's really staying fit to do the kind of work that one needs to have if one's going to go out in the woods, and what day or night, and the terrain and the topography typically is rough. In some circumstances, in most circumstances, it's pretty rough and remote. And the physiology of the body, if someone has a heart condition or they're any asthma, they really need to take medication and inform everybody, hey, I've got this condition. If this happens, you need to do this, because guess what? The rest of the people are going to have to haul you out. And that's
I always have a first aid kit with me, and I always bring an asthma inhaler just in case anything ever happens,
Oh, but, absolutely.
I didn't know Danny had a stent or a pacemaker or whatever he had until afterwards. He told me later on, and I was like, dude, you got to let me know about this, because it's an easy hike in, like you're saying. The mining road is an easy hike in, but the mining road is only 1 mile, 2 miles long. Once you get to the Appalachian Trail, it's a goat trail. It's sketchy, to say the least.
Oh yeah.
So you have to really be sure-footed when you go on these expeditions. It's not like they show on TV with Finding Bigfoot. They're always on like some kind of road where you could drive in a quad runner up or something like that. It's not like that.
Yeah, I wish it was like that, but unfortunately, you're right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the road sometimes ends, and then you just got to get out and walk and hike. On some occasions, depending on the financial availability of the team or some members, you might have some side-by-sides or quad bikes or some Railcon tracker bikes that can get in there pretty deep. And in some cases, I know a few people that actually take horseback. But now,
yeah, I'd love to go in there on horseback. I'll be honest with you. I think horseback would be the best way to go at this location that we go to. And I would love to go in on horseback. As a matter of fact, I said that to the girls that night. I said, boy, if I could get in here on a dirt bike or on horseback, I would love to do it.
Yeah.
Because then you could really get it. You could really get in deep, you know? I mean, when you're carrying a backpack that weighs 60 pounds,
oh, yeah.
and you're hiking 4 miles, you're hiking 4 miles in and 4 miles out on goat trails, it takes a toll on you, you know?
Oh, yeah. It lets you know your age for sure, real quick.
That's for sure. Absolutely.
And,
yeah,
because most of the guys that we chat with are, most of them are going to be in their 40s and 50s, and that's where, they start getting involved a little bit more, and they're into their occupation a little more full-time, full swing. But about the, fourth decade of age is when you start having the knees having problems, the hips, the back, the neck, and shoulders, and it's a little harder when you carry that size of backpack on. I mean, it's pretty rough. And so,
oh, yeah.
But
I've had 2 total knee replacements on both legs. I'm 55 years old. I'm no youngster, you know what I mean? And but I just love this, you know what I mean? I really do. I love being boots on the ground and being in the woods and experiencing this kind of stuff. And I tell you, I just love doing these investigations more than anything else. More than anything else, I love being out there and investigating, no matter what it is.
Every time you go out, it'd be awesome, totally awesome to be able to find a print, cast it, find breaks, structures. I wish it was that way every single time for everybody that went out that really love and have a passion for this. But, that's sometimes a needle in the haystack. And
yeah.
So you really, like you said, exactly, you just have to have a passion for going out and just loving to be outdoors and being a good observer of the outdoors and the other animals that exist in the area, and what do they sound like, and when we go out deer hunting, I do enjoy deer hunting, and when we go out just camping, I do enjoy camping. In my mind, it doesn't have to be every single second about looking for prints. I observe everything that I'm doing, but I try to be in the moment of just observation and enjoying the birds singing and the cold air and all those things. It just kind of puts it all together. It's kind of like enjoying the journey, so to speak. But
yeah, absolutely.
We love camping and hiking and canoeing and fishing. We absolutely love fishing. Always in the back of our mind, that sound that you hear, what do you think that was? And is that a normal sound? And
absolutely.
And so,
yeah. That's, I guess once it's ingrained in you, you know what I mean? It's always in the back of your mind.
Yeah, exactly. Why am I hearing an owl midday, or things like that, or that coyote really sounds a little different, or it sounds sick. What's going on? How come I'm hearing it midday? And just odd things like that. It doesn't happen all the time. Well, I tell you, it's been interesting. This is a very, very interesting encounter you had, and it was interesting because you had some ladies who were brave enough to go out and experience something that they've never experienced, and of all the times, the first experience they went out, they had a lot of very strange and frightening vocalizations that they'll never forget, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely not. And I told them before we even went out, I said, listen, this location is a hot spot, and it never disappoints. Whenever we go there, whether we're going there looking for dogmen, we found a dogman den there in this location, whether we're going there for Sasquatch, or if we're just going there for high strangeness, because there's a lot of high strangeness in there, and I think it all has to do with the uranium that was mined there, and I think the uranium was probably being mined there before our government got there to mine it. You know what I mean? It's just
sure.
lights in the woods. You know what I mean? Like balls of light in the woods, and it's just such a strange location that my psychic, who does everything over the phone for me, when we get there and the energy is very high, she can't even talk. It's like she got cerebral palsy. she can't talk. She's like, you gotta move out of that area. I can't focus. I can't talk. And then we move away, and then she's able to tell us everything she's seeing or she's feeling, and the things that we're going to experience. And the great thing about it is, whenever she tells us all this stuff that we're going to experience, we never believe her. We never believe her. And when the night is all said and done, everything she says usually comes true.
Well, I think close this episode here, Al. But any websites that people can visit you guys that you have right now, or Facebook sites?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You know, you can find the Bronxville Paranormal Society on the internet. We have our own website. We're on Facebook and Twitter, and I believe we even have a few things up on YouTube as well. I know I got to get my stuff and gear and get more of our evidence up on YouTube. But you know, you can find us on all social media sites. We're all over the place.
Thank you so much, Al. I appreciate you, and thanks for this very, very interesting encounter you guys had. And we appreciate you guys going out, doing this, and for the ladies having enough courage, kind of becoming more well-rounded from their paranormal expeditions they do. And we will definitely have you on again for sure. Godspeed on your surgery. I'm sure everything is going to go well for you. Please keep in touch.